Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roach Wiggle, November 3rd, 2022. Hello. Did we have a Roach Wiggle last week? Yes, we did. Whenever that was. The 27th. All right. Off the top of my head, Brett, since you had texted me about this, I will get right into that after I say hello to everybody. Jojo Macro, Altered Pants. We got a lot of people here already. Good to see you too, Junior, Chris, Brett, Tennyson, and whoever else may be lurking. Actually, kind of surprised. Usually Alan complains at me and asks if we're having a stream that week. So off the bat, I'm going to answer some questions that Brett had texted me also. I can't help but notice I use an actual razor to shave for the first time in like months, and like I have baby face sections, and I also cut myself a couple of times, so like my eyes are naturally drawn to like all the spots as I look. I may get into that later, but anyways, Brett was asking about earwigs climbing plastic. I think Vostoks can climb plastic, but not Labradura or Euborelia. And I think European earwigs can climb it too. I can't remember. And asking about Labrador riparian husbandry from my experience so far, which is getting babies and getting them. I think they're at like 4th or 5th instar now. So yeah, they're in a critter keeper, faunarium, whatever, with 2-ish inches of sand. The back half is kept moist. The front half is kept dry. They actually seem to like it very dry, in that they are, well, actually, I guess there's a good mixture of distribution. Some of them are in the, like, I have like pieces of bark and some pine cones and stuff for them, and they're just kind of all over the place. Like there's some that are usually in the dry spots, some of them are like underneath the materials, and so and for food it's been, I think I may have put some fish flakes in with them recently, but up until now, it's just been pre-killed roaches that I just leave in there that I will kill and then sort of break open, and they'll hollow them out and hide inside of them. But I think I may have given them some fish flakes and maybe a jelly. Oh, I'll go off and tear about this. One of these jellies. Warren's been using these for a long time. Apparently, Kai introduced me to at least using them as a general all for, oh, wow. Just going to take a quick note here. So Satchel, who usually is in the chat, is I talk about him sending us new stuff occasionally that he finds from Tuscaloosa. I believe he was the one who corrected me on the pronunciation of Buell, Alabama. He went off to see some weird rare bird or something today and posted a picture of the bird like inches away from his like hand. And I think it's a really cool looking bird. I can't remember what it's called. But I was just notified of that. But anyways, these jellies I've been starting to exploit for in between of major feedings. Like if I see an enclosure that's run out of like the apples and dog food and stuff, I will throw one of these in to just sort of pacify the inhabitants for a little while. And they've been working really well for a lot of things to just sort of give them that extra little something in between the bigger major husbandries. So I may have put one of these in with the Labradura. I can't really remember. Again, I don't think it's very important. And in the wild, I pulled one out of a burrow in Yuma. So they'll take they can live in really dry places. But the area where I collected the bulk of mine from was like a downspout in Roll, Arizona at a rest stop. It was apparently it had rained very, very recently there. So there were just crickets everywhere and all kinds of bugs, and Labrador were one of them. So this is my power hydration thing. And let's go. Bit by the birding bug, who is why do I feel like I've said that you haven't been here before, but I feel like you have. Or maybe I feel like I've said, hey, I haven't seen that name before, and I feel like I'm about to do it again. So this is your first time in the stream. Hello, welcome. Bit by the birding bug. I may just call it Bit by. That's a good abbreviation. Liptorina and David, I just seem to want to be hot and dry, and that's what I've been doing for the last several years with them. Since like 2017 or 2018, hot and dry, and I have not had any issues. They've gotten to be the point where it's one of those colonies where I don't really even check their status when I do my full enclosure check day. I just sort of like eyeball and make sure that there are some in the colony, and then I just throw a bunch of food in with them. So I have noticed that maybe just naturally sort of inconsistent at producing babies, or there may be some population structure thing going on there, like with it's been experimentally shown with things like lobster roaches. Of course, this is a different sale because it's a larger organism and it's in a slightly different group of roaches, but still kind of closely related. But anyways, with lobster roaches, if the population density gets too high, especially in adding my experience here, with too many adults or large nymphs, they will actually slow or stop reproducing until there's some sort of removal of individuals or something like that, and then the population will sort of re-equilibrate under certain conditions. So I think, David, I might do that because usually there's not a ton of nymphs in the enclosure. There's plenty for all of my purposes, but it's never like where you would open the enclosure and the bulk of what you see is nymphs. It's usually a lot of adults, but the nymphs that I see are healthy and obvious. I mean, this is my perspective. The colony is probably always over 100 individuals at any given time, and to some people that's a lot, and to me, for my purposes, that's like the safety zone, especially for that would be the safety zone for a smaller species. For a larger species, I'm pretty content with those numbers. So anyways, yes, hot, dry, that's all really I have to say on them. Seems to have been the key, and dry with ventilation and whatnot. Hello, Hylas. It's been a while, I think. I'm gonna go crazy thinking about saying who's been here recently and who hasn't. I had some things to bring up, just to bring things up to speed on some stuff. I'm gonna play with this jelly packet while I try to think. Oh, here it's in my one topic is in my bookmarks. I ordered some. So last year I was complaining through the winter about why I was having problems with a couple of colonies of things that are supposed to be pretty bulletproof or have been easy for me in the past. I was complaining about possible Wolbachia is a fidget packet, Chris. Complaining about possible Wolbachia from Pyralis moths, and was sort of spitballing to try and figure out what was going on. And then coming into the spring and sort of fully internalizing the approach with my setups, was that I determined that basically, even if I kept the substrate very moist in a lot of these enclosures, for some species that's still dry if the air is dry. And so I need to, as begrudgingly as I will, I have to decrease the ventilation on some of my enclosures somehow. And this is not a problem for blackbirds or for a lot of ectobiids, but my blattids, that was the case. Now here's the kicker. Here's the complex situation, though. So there have been studies where they've tested hatch rates of things that you would think would be very dryness intolerant, like Blatta orientalis, so a pest species that is found in sewers, where they have taken the egg cases and kept them under controlled conditions to see how well they hatch. And I believe that Blatta orientalis has been tested, and that the egg cases can hatch in 0% humidity conditions. So you would think that, okay, well then why are you having problems getting the ooths to hatch if this is what the data said, what the science says? So surely the dry air is not to blame for that. That is only one part of the equation, and I'd have to find that publication again and eyeball it. But what I suspect is, if the air is too dry, it reduces the fitness of the adult roaches, or just the roaches in general, wherein that even with a daily misting, it may not be enough humidity for their bodies to keep up normal, healthy functions. So, yes, an ooth produced by an individual that was raised in ideal conditions, the ooth itself can withstand, a properly formed, healthy ooth can withstand 0% humidity and still hatch. But let's say you take a female of that species of Blatta orientalis, raise it in dry conditions, and somehow get it to adulthood without any issues. She may not be able to produce healthy ooths that are able to withstand those sort of conditions. And I think that this is sort of the explanation for the phenomenon of sort of weird ooths that roaches will produce sometimes, where they'll be kind of like, other than other issues like something internal going on, but where you may get ooths that are kind of malformed and kind of gross looking, instead of being nice and consistent and smooth. And obviously this isn't a problem across the table, or across the board, because some of my colonies were doing completely fine. Some of the blattids were like the CF Stylopiga propinqua were doing just fine all winter. But I think the nail in the coffin for this line of thought for me was when I thought back on last winter, and again, where I had problems where I lost colonies of things like Deropeltis, or just struggled to get them through, like the Masai Mara, which I now have a lot of. And I think back on those instances, and I think, where could a smoking gun for this humidity argument be? And then I realized that last winter, I didn't have any newborn nymphs or anything. I think it was mostly subadult, like large nymphs and adults in my Paraplaneta americana white-eye culture. And I thought, I didn't really notice much of that at the time, because I don't sell a whole bunch of those, especially with venoms sort of taking up the limelight. And for research, a lot of the times they want to use wild types. But I remember being like, there's like no babies in here. That's kind of interesting. Like, I wasn't concerned because I had so many large nymphs and adults, but I just sort of was like, this is kind of odd. So to fix this problem, because I'm far too committed to the 10-gallon and 5-gallon tank method, I just like the aesthetic so much, and it's been so good all around for 70 to 75% of the year. What I decided to do was get some polycarbonate. I was going to do glass, and my uncle actually gave me this big brain, high IQ solution of using something that's cheaper and less likely to break and blah, blah, blah. So I got some cut to size clear polycarbonate inserts that I can put. Hello, Michael Hare. Good to see you. That I can slide onto the plastic lip of the tanks, and effectively turn them into a relatively sealed box. I did still leave an area so that I can do spraying, and so that there's good ventilation. And Brett, no, they weren't pre-cut for 10 gallons. I had to go and get the measurements for my 10 gallons, and I found out also. So I have been buying mostly Aquion brand Like the bulk of what I have is Aqueon brand because that's what's been available in the last 2 years that I've been going crazy with tanks. But there were a couple of odds and ends tanks that I have where, I went to put the insert on like one of the tanks and it was like, oh, this doesn't fit. It will work because but it's not sliding perfectly in to where it's, perfectly flat and whatnot. It kind of has a little upwards hang. It's not affecting the gasket seals or anything like that, but it's just kind of annoying for consistency's sake. So I went and did measurements and I got the first batch of them came in today, and I wanted to just do a test batch to make sure it was actually going to work the way I wanted it to. And then, lo and behold, it did perfectly. And so now I'm placing the final order for a whole bunch of them to finish things up. So that's been the fun thing today. Because with the is this technically an Indian summer? Yes, I guess it is a period of unseasonably warm, dry weather that sometimes occurs in autumn in temperate regions of the northern hemisphere. Here's not occurring until after the first frost and some other definitions. We have had a frost though. It wasn't very dramatic, but we have had a frost. Some of my more sensitive tropicals that I had outside have died. So anyways, yeah. So we have this Indian summer. So I haven't had to turn the furnace on too much. It's 52% humidity in here. This whole room's due for another round of husbandry, anyways. So I haven't had to turn the heater on maybe like a handful of times when it did get cold. Of course, the basement stays pretty warm, but again, the air movement and the hot, dry air and the movement of the air suddenly downstairs dries things out. And so I've gotten into position with a couple of species that I had problems with last year, like the Derapeltis. I've put the sheets on those already because I don't think this weather's going to last too much longer. It's pretty crazy how warm it's been. After it was, I almost feel like, oh my gosh, it's supposed to be in the like mid 60s for like a week or more. That's great. Nighttime temps are going down, but still. Let's see. What was I saying? Indian summer, heat. Anyways, yeah. So I put the plates on the Derapeltis already in preparation. And actually, I think I've just kind of pop the heater on occasionally if I go downstairs and it feels a little cool. I haven't with the prices on everything going up. I haven't bought a new quartz heater, which I usually burn through 1 or 2 a year. I'm actually going to do that right now. Quartz heater. Wow, they're even more expensive on Amazon. I'm going to have to get it when I go back to Menards. Anyways, I'm down to one heater, so I've just been bumping the house temperature on every once in a while. I have most of the vents closed other than to rooms that I go in all the time. So yeah, that was the big thing today, was finding out that these polycarb sheets are really effective. And actually, maybe I should even buy more. I'm just thinking now because the millipedes will probably appreciate having these on their enclosures even more so than a lot of the roaches. But some good pertinent questions. Perhaps let me give this an eyeball. How many cultures do you currently have, roaches and isopods and anything else? Probably approaching 1,000, maybe. There's several hundred isopod bins, and I'm always adding to them. And there's also several hundred. I mean, you can just see in this room. Yeah, it's got to be approaching 1,000. You can see just this room. This is just the office. This is just some higher priority stuff that I like to keep a higher, closer tabs on, or just for fun. There's some things in here that are just in here for fun, or getting rare stuff that's just getting established. So yeah, it's got to be approaching 1,000. I have some things that are in little culture cups too, like some Try to get the thing to refocus. There we go. Like some, little grain beetles and starter cultures of stuff. And so yeah, it's quite a bit. But, I was just thinking this today. I looked at my calendar and I looked at the whiteboard downstairs to see what the last day was that I did all my like roach and whatnot husbandry. And it was back like September 28th. And I was like, I come on the live stream and I'm like, yeah, when I do maintenance every 10 to 21 days. And then now I feel like I need to like bump that a bit. Now it's like, yeah, when I do maintenance every 21 to 40 days. I think it would be pretty nifty to get to not having to do heavy culture maintenance except for every like 3 months. I feel like if I get to that, I will have truly become a master, only having to take care of cultures every 3 months and having them thrive. So, but right now, month has been reasonable and cultures are doing really well overall. Let's see. Chain asks, have you been having any misshapen ooths from colonies under adequate conditions? If I can find a heritable ooth deformity, hopefully that restricts the number of eggs. It would help with a small project I have. No, a lot of that seems to be linked to nutrition, but the fact that roaches can have varying numbers just across taxa of eggs per ooth suggests that there's got to be some heritable element to that. So have fun with that project. You'd probably want to look into an ectobiid. I don't know if you want one that is oviparous or is like ovoviviparous type 2 or whatever. Was it oviparous type 2? I need to do a refresher on this. But that'd probably be a good place to look into for short hatch times and frequent ooth production. Tennyson asks, what do you raise euphoria on? So the larvae I raise on like I've got them started on compost and like white rotted wood and like leaf litter all shredded up. And now I just use like fish flakes and dog food for the larvae and for the adults. I've been using the jellies as well as pieces of fruit. I've been leaning more onto the jellies because they seem fine with that. I've successfully been breeding Sepulchralis for like a year and a half now, multiple generations. Inda has been a problem because my wild collected Inda from here have not produced an F1, which is really annoying because I was hoping, oh yeah, in another euphoria, it'll be so easy and I'll get an F2 and it'll be over like fall and then I'll get a colony going by winter, but they may need a diapause even though they range very short or very far south, or I've just been impatient and should have just left them at room temperature and eventually they would have came around to reproducing. But I decided to take the whole colony and shove it in the cold room because I really want that species to do well. And maybe as a numbers game, if I just get tons and tons of them going, eventually there'll be some individuals that don't have a torpor or pause between leaving the pupal cell and breeding. Congrats on the baby G Portentosa, Michael Hare. Always exciting. Again, I look back on my first experience getting baby Gromphidorina back in like 2007 or something, and how magical it was to finally see babies. Bit by the Burning Bud asks for any updates on the Eublabrus taxonomy thing. No. And it is unlikely that we will get any decent updates. What will probably happen is some graduate student will contact me and say that they are looking to do something with that and that they would like specimens, and then they will probably do the legwork of what is it called? Desynonymizing Biolii and Distenti. They'll probably have to do molecular work, which will require stock from both things. They would probably do a third reproductive trial, even though I've already done 2. They'll probably do a third one just to be completely 1,000,000,000% sure. And then the 2 taxa will likely be resurrected. So give it about 20 years and it'll probably happen. And then there's the potential intermediate species or intermediate form between the 2 mountain ranges in South America. Maybe one day I'll go down there, maybe. Euphoria basalis will ever enter culture. I'm not familiar with that species, but I would think if somebody collected them, yes. I mean, every time I go out west, I look for Euphoria. Every time I go anywhere, I look for Euphoria. And if I find them, if I find larvae or adults, I try to culture them. But so far, I've only found Inda and Sepulchralis, and then there's a species that used to be called Testacea that I can't, Leucographa, that I collected in Arizona on the first or second trip, and I couldn't get them going because I was dumb. But we have these Texas Canyon cetanines, which could be Euphoria it used to be Holocaust. Is it Monticola? Yeah, these might be Euphoria Monticola. We're not sure. They're from Texas Canyon. I actually don't even know if they pupated or if they're, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go for the smallest pupal cell, crack it open and see what's going on. Yep, they are still larvae in pupal cells. Great. Very fun. So yeah, but I would love more Euphoria. If anybody collects good numbers of larvae or adults, I would love to work with them. Question from Some Eggs. Welcome, Some Eggs. Good to see you. When and how should I overwinter Parkablad nymphs, and do they need to be a certain instar? It seems most of them overwinter near adult. Pennsylvanica or at least to trigger maturity, they seem to need to be cooled at subadult or very near it. That's my experience with Pennsylvanica. That seems to be what Caudali need reliably too. Now, here's an update. I might have fresh adults in my Alabama Parkablada, the Lata and Divisa that I collected in spring. So they may be maturing without a diapause. Notha does not seem to need a diapause either, or is very inconsistent about it. Caudali seems to need one, which is very strange because it's like a southern species. And Notha seems to be the sister species to Caudali. So it's like, why does like one need a diapause and the other one doesn't? Because I've had Caudali stuck at subadult, and they've been doing stationary molts where they basically just molt and recover any like sort of broken antennae or like tarsi, but they will still have wing buds. They will molt to the same instar and still have wing buds, and still have not swollen but still present wing buds. And so they've been doing stationary molts for like a year. So I threw them in the cold room, and we're going to see what happens when I pull them out around late December, January. So yes, when they are getting subadultish, seems to be very reliable, but it seems all Parkablada will overwinter in multiple different instars. I have found like first or second instar Pennsylvanica in a log in November before or December, but who knows if they will actually survive the winter like that too. Chris Nair says May 10th, 2022 lists 220 items of roaches. That isn't cultures, though, as I assume high volume sale roaches involve multiple colonies, also cultures of breeding experiments. Yes, and so there are more. And May 10th, 2022 did not have a lot of the stuff that's in here also. So Tennyson asks about, I have no idea on the ranges for different Euphoria. Inda is pretty common in the eastern United States. Sepulchralis seems also pretty common in the eastern U.S., maybe more common south. I think it's that other pretty one that I can't remember the Latin for. It's another shiny green one. Is another eastern U.S. species, more southeastern. Fulgida, Euphoria fulgida, but can be found in Michigan. So, but a lot of these other ones just seems Western or wherever. But it would be nice. I would really like to work with more Euphoria, and it's it's kind of a shame. They seem to have adults seem to have very restricted seasons for some of the species. Oh, senories are very pretty. beetle. It's August, September, October. Reports on bug guide supposedly for that. A lot of them on flowers. I check flowers and stuff too when I go out west, but I never see anything. You got like these pictures on bug guide of like a bunch of like a breeding group of them bored into like one flower head. It's like I didn't see any of that. So some eggs. So this year's brood from Indiana, Parker Blood, doesn't need overwintering until they are subadults. Yes, and you can find out and see if I'm wrong. But I don't think most of the time the stopgap is people get Parker Blood up to subadult and then you can't get them to adulthood, or they have weird deformed malts or all kinds of stuff like that. Zebra does not seem to need diapause either. At least all the strains of zebra that I've worked with don't seem to need diapause. Divisa may not need diapause. Olariana, probably all of them need diapause. Alan, if you're here, you can chime in on the southern ones. And then also adding more spice to things. I think Pennsylvanica is a species complex, actually. And because I had a virgin adult female Michigan Pennsylvanica, and then I put a bunch of Alabama locality males in with her, and they didn't produce any offspring. So I think that Pennsylvanica might actually be a species complex, and that the southern and northern ones probably need to be split. This might be like a Great Lakes region type thing, because morphologically, all the pictures I've seen, a lot of the other northern keepers, like people from Pennsylvania and New York and like I think Indiana, Illinois, all the pictures I've seen of Pennsylvanica from those states are what I always thought of as Pennsylvanica, and then the Alabama ones are smaller, they're darker, and apparently they may be reproductively isolated. And then there's another entity that I got some adults of on the Arizona trip this year from Oklahoma, which is Pennsylvanica, but we'll see how that goes. Very pesty Pennsylvanica, actually. They were like all over the place at this rest stop that's like in the middle of farm fields, but there's a couple of ash trees and stuff, but they were like living on the structures there, like the stone picnic tables and gazebo type things. They were just sort of all over the place. And adult females and a bunch of nymphs. So who knows? Somebody have to do work on it. I don't know. Let's see. Hyla says, my cat murdered my Lygidium gracile while I was gone. Now I gotta wait until. How did your cat murder that, like individually or a whole colony? Brett says he can't stop thinking about Cottonus aliena. Where's them boys from? Oh, the one that Alan and Kai have gone trying to find several times and apparently can, or they saw something else that they thought was it. It was a euphoria or something like that. Oh yeah, that'd be nice to have. Actually, I'm getting ready to have my F2 of Cottonus metabolus soon. They were born in August, September, have been growing super slow. Yeah, that is kind of late in the year. I mean, you could cool them in a double again. It seems that multiple life stages can overwinter with different Barcablata, but it seems like the stopgap seems to be overwintering subadults. Let me show you my Mount Ord setup, actually. Oh yeah, I need to do husbandry. It's on my list of to-dos. Here's my setup for the Mount Ords. It's like an inch and a half-ish of substrate. Should be a moisture gradient of slightly humid to dry, with it being mostly dry, but right now it's like all dry. So Kyle needs to get on doing husbandry up here very soon. It's on my list again tomorrow morning. I'm probably gonna knock it out, this whole room. So so yeah, that's it. It's cypress mulch. It's all kind of stuff that they've just sort of shredded and turned into powder. You can see it sorts by size. Got the bigger particles up top, and then the smaller stuff is here. And they've sort of strewn the fish flakes about the substrate in their tunneling escapades too. Not all Aeronavega will do that. So that's those. Again, pretty much sounds like what you did. There's a bit other, there's like some leaf litter bits and stuff in there. I don't think it's too important. Wow, you had Lygidium gracile that were 6 months old. Did they grow very slowly? I've my L. Radii and was it Blue Ridgei or something that I have is from northern Tennessee, seem to be growing pretty slowly too. I don't know if that's because they're at low density or what. The isopod compendium is probably very incomplete too, because the big one, I think I have more cultures of isopods now than I did when I inventoried. And when I inventoried, I don't remember, but I don't think I put down all the projects, like stuff that were like containers that just had like the F1 or F2 crosses of things that I was fishing for different traits from. Let's see, I could do some math here and see how many. Let's see, I do 2 to 3 isopods containers per shelf. I think it's 6 across. And there's like 4 of those. This is 48 per bottom 4 shelves. Top shelf gets 3. And then we're at pretty much at max capacity. So it's about 300 isopod cultures on that shelf. And then there's a couple of odds and ends and ones strewn about the basement. So yes, it's about 300 cultures of isopods on the one wall alone. And then there's some of those are cohabs of multiple species of isopods, so there's that too. Yeah, there's a lot down there. I gotta do a tour. I said I'd do a tour in October, and then October auction stuff was busy. So it's gonna be winter, and I'm gonna be bored and caught up on stuff. So maybe I'll actually do the tour in November, December. I do have a couple of things I need to finish, like the last isopod rack needs to be restructured and put up. Actually, I might have Javier do that tonight while I'm doing husbandry. Yeah, I could have him do that, because then I can restructure the other shelf and get those cultures moved over to there. I can finally have all the isopod cultures consolidated on one wall, except for a couple of odds and ends that are fine. So, yeah, I like that idea. I'll have to ask him when I'm done, or rather, I guess tell him to do that. Yeah, I should get that done. You just got to move some like slugs and snails off of there too, and some millipedes. And yeah, I like that idea. So then I'll have that whole wall finally be isopod. We're getting to the point also with space where I'm not out of, and I've said this a couple times, I'm not out of space yet, but I have to start being smart with space management. And so I may end I may end up getting some racks on wheels that I will have to end up leaving in the middle of like aisleways that I don't go down, or at the end of the aisleways that I don't go all the way down constantly. And that might be the only way that I can finish using all of the space that I have before I move. Because yeah, I'm for shelves. Let's see. Yeah, that's got all the shelves. You could put an end cap on that one, but that would make that one hallway kind of a pain. Yeah, I guess I could do that first. Be kind of annoying. Maybe I will. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's quite a lot of shelves. Actually, Marshall Arachnids is here. They came over to pick up their order a couple of their auction stuff like a week ago. They got to see the Roach crossing experience and all the containers of everything everywhere. So, and let's see. I still on the fence if I'm going to do a Florida trip this winter. I kind of want to, but I have a contact in Florida who's willing to go to like one of the spots that I really needed a bunch of stuff from, and he lives there, so he could just go there and like get a bunch of things and send it to me. And I think that's what I might end up doing, just so I can stay home and like it's not that it's like cost or anything of the trip, but it's if I'm there, I'm not here basically, and I can't do all my husbandry and keep the gears of everything turning and as fluidly as they have been. So I got to really think about it. I might have to go for those Aranavega Floridenses from Ocala because my female, she needs a boy, and Alan's only got so many boys. So, other things. Again, I don't intend this to be a very long live show. I suppose I could touch on that. So yeah, I think we'll go another 18-ish minutes. An hour is a good live stream for here. We can get more cozy as we get further and further into the winter. I will do another guest live stream in some capacity. I'm not exactly sure who it'll be. I might try and drag Kim Wisman on here. I think he'd really enjoy that. He's old guard reptile bug person who, of course, got me into going to Arizona constantly, and I think he'd have a lot of fun. I'd like to have a good chat presence for him coming to visit. Lots of questions and stuff. He actually, even though the bugs are sort of the thing that we really communicate about, he's actually more into reptiles, specifically snakes. He's bred tons of snakes that people have only dreamed of. You know, a lot of native colubrids. He was the first person to breed Arizona mountain king snakes and works pink coach whips. He's working with all kinds of house snakes and things right now. So, so that's that. And I'll try and get him on here, see if we can make that happen. But yeah, so the reason why I don't want to do a long stream today is because I do have a lot to do. Javier and I have all husbandry short of like assassin bugs, arachnids, beetles, etc. So we've got to do all the isopods, all the roaches. I will probably finally fully check my millipedes for the first time since Arizona and see how that goes. I have no doubt that most of them are fine, but like I have to add more wood and leaves and dog food and whatnot. Some eggs asking about how to breed Celeopus barberi. That's a question for Alan. I think Alan's bred or worked with Celeopus before. It's interesting. I just pulled them up on Bug Guide. It's interesting. It says that they overwinter as adults, which is very, again, interesting because Zealous here overwinter as subadults or like pre-subadults, which I always thought was kind of weird. This is weird when different members of the same group of insects have these like radically different life histories. Like there are other reduvids, like wheel bugs overwinter as eggs, And then you've got like the Celeopus that apparently overwinters adults, and then you have Zealous luridus that overwinters as subadults or close to subadults, which again, it's just so weird that they're just all over the place. Chain has retracted a message, all right. Anyways, I was saying why I don't want to take too much time is this weekend I will be going to Youmacon, which is the anime, video gaming, etc. Celeopus convention in Detroit. I will be going there cosplaying. I guess this is the TMI section of the live stream. Again, I try to keep it. I know the description is what is it, a entomological carefree entomological chat, I think it is, but I figured I would bring everybody up to speed on this since I will not be doing emails over the weekend. You know, occasionally I will go through and clear the inbox on a Saturday or Sunday. But anyway, so I won't be around this weekend. If anybody here is familiar with the band Ninja Sex Party, specifically the lead singer Danny Sexbang, is who I will be cosplaying this Saturday and Sunday at Youmacon. So that's where I'm going to be. So I got to be a big responsible bug boy, get all the husbandry done, hopefully clear the inbox once more, either late tonight or tomorrow, maybe not. There's actually not too many emails. Let me see. Live on your channel. PayPal trying to trick me into a business loan. Amazon.com order. Only about 25 emails. That's good. That'll multiply very quickly, surprisingly quickly. But until then, I will just continue doing as I have been doing. But anyways, all of the auction stuff, except for Mr. Devin No Name, who we just squared up on things very recently with some add-ons. Brett, your order obviously went out this week. Junior and Chris and I, we have all been in contact regarding shipping date and whatnot. But other than those, and if there's any DOA notifications hiding in the emails, which does not look like there are, thankfully, I think we only had 3 or 4 things be DOA from all of the auction shipping, not individual insects, but like things happened in groups. So there were a couple of Cubaris that had some issues. There was one of the stick bugs, and then a couple of Blabbers Fusca in somebody's order, but it was like 5 out of 150 or whatever, so it's completely reasonable. But other than that, I was very happy. I was kind of fearing when we had that temperature drop that a lot more was going to happen, but nope, everything turned out better than expected. So yeah, there we have it, wrapping up the end of the auction stuff. Any other important things to note? It's still going through my mind going on sabbatical. I think if I want that to be an option, I need to get what were the chat had recommended some things before, Patreon or GoFundMe or something for the updated Roach care guide, because basically I'm going to need to take a week off of doing everything to really settle into it, to get new picture OnlyFans to get new pictures and update the information and add pages, and okay, maybe it was Kickstarter. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up and bookmark it on my bar here thingy. Bring a creative project to life. So we'll do that. I'm gonna have to. Anybody have any strong feelings on what a Kickstarter there's you got to do rewards for different tiers of sponsorships? I suppose for the highest tier of sponsorship, I could do a group of some bugs. Is basically just a sale at that point, but or maybe like you get to proofread it. I mean, it's going to end up being free as the other one currently is, but you get it before P Magnifica for highest tier. But yeah, so I probably put like $1,000 on there or something as the Kickstarter goal and see if we get it, and hope to do a sabbatical in December, I guess, and focus on doing. I mean, obviously, I'd still do the live stream or whatever. Some post balance for the lowest tier. Yeah, so I probably do that. Actually, can I just do a Kickstarter right now? Can I just jump into this like right now? Like how does this work? Sign up for get the ball's rolling. I guess we're gonna get the ball rolling here, guys. Do I sign up as Kyle Candillion or as Roach? We're gonna sign up as Roach Crossing. Let's see how this goes. See if it's a quick and easy, straightforward interface. I am not a robot. So this is exciting. Calendar or photos? I could work on doing a Roach calendar. I need to up my photography game though, like pretty hardcore. I bought a point and click. Oh, gosh, I can't even remember the dates on all these stuff. The old model of point and click that I had, which is where a lot of the earlier photos on the site came from, was phenomenal. And I screwed it up when I threw my bag down because I was excited that Alan found Uricotis lixa back in like 2015 or something and broke the camera and it shattered part of it, and it was good and fine for a while, but then it started having more glitches and then eventually was unmanageable. So I bought the same model or the same build or whatever, but newer, and the quality was actually lower. Like I couldn't do macro shots as easily and all this stuff. It was horrible. And so now I've just been kind of doing sort of like this. This has been my way of getting current picture stuff. But yes, I need to up the game, and there's an end game plan for getting everything photographed. Me emailed you a link to a Kickstarter blog post specific to doing a project, book project. Okay, thank you, Chris. Check your inbox to complete your registration. Kickstarter for books. Okay, that's that. So verify your email. I'm gonna do a giveaway right now for something because I need to get them into more people's hands, and I don't know what to ask for it. Should I do a giveaway, or should I just do like a thing? I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a second to ruminate on this. Complete verification. Just because I just had to take precautions to take care of them for the winter, and I want to have backup plans. I'm gonna look into this Kickstarter thing first. Publishing. Guess I'm gonna have to go through and read your stuff, Chris, to get a better idea. Am I getting close? Victor, guinea pigs, Blavers giganteus. Fudge. The attention's kind of split at the moment because this Kickstarter interface is not as pick up and go user friendly as I anticipated. Start a project. Okay, maybe I should just hit the start a project button. The people in these start a project things look so apathetic. What is this? Is it publishing? I guess it's kind of academic. right? Nonfiction or academic? Do a plant question. Yeah, I could do a plant question in a second here. Anybody? This is not the question, by the way. But anybody have any suggestions or feelings on if for Kickstarter, if I put the Roach care guide up there, if I should do academic or nonfiction? Any thoughts on that? Because there's I know some people have done publications. Actually, Nathan, that isopod person, is working on an academic publication of Lygidium elrodii husbandry right now. So this is kind of academic, but I guess nonfiction is the better way to go because it's not like I'm going over the top. A next additional subcategory. There is no subcategory. Next location. Select my country. The U.S. Luxembourg. Project status. Project must create something to share with others. All right, which is what I'm doing. Projects must be honest and clearly presented. All right, Roach Care Guide with updated pictures and information. Can't fundraise for charity. Can't offer equity. All right, this seems can't involve prohibited items. Let's see what prohibited items are. Any item claiming to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent an illness or condition. Contest coupons, gambling, energy, food, or drinks. Offensive material. Offering a genetically modified organism as a reward. All right, that's interesting. But then it goes on to here we go. We're going into the quick dive here, and I'll read back up through the chat in a second here. Live animals also cannot be offered as a reward. So they go out of their way to say genetically modified organisms also. Political fundraising, weird porno, projects that promote dumb stuff, share things that already exist, or repackage a previously created product without adding anything new or aiming to iterate. Resale, drugs, nicotine, tobacco, weapons, replicas of weapons, weapon accessories. Okay, so I think we're good. Other than interesting with the genetically modified organism, you can't do a Kickstarter to be like, all right, we're going to make GMO roaches, everybody. First book, 10 years from now, you're getting that your book tours force you to give up insect husbandry. Okay, got it. Here we go. Oh, this is actually a lot of stuff. I was not ready for this. All right, we're gonna. This is getting tabled till next week, everybody. I'll look into it next week. There's too many bits for me to look at right now. Too many moving parts. Yeah, so they only allow non-GMO plants apparently, and no live animals. And if you had a live plant, it has to be non-GMO, which is very interesting. And I wonder what definitions they use for that, because you could use some pretty loose definitions if you wanted to. So, was there anything else we were going to talk about? Do a live stream just for starting the book. Maybe that's what I'll do next week if we settle into things. Again, it's the splitting the attention span between going to there and then going back to here is a bit much when I have other things on my mind. But yeah, so I think maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe I will or won't make a note of it in the stream, but like in the description and whatnot. But I think that's what we could do next week, and then with some audience input, we could get some good directionality for the project. Again, it's very straightforward what I need to do. I need to just go in and put in has it been like 6 years, 7 years, something like that? I still mentioned my ex and stuff in the ending. Gonna have to update that quite a bit. So yeah, so it'll get a new new fresh coat of paint, I think it would be a good idea for me to also. I thought I had a million billion business cards somewhere, and it turns out I don't have a million billion business cards somewhere. So I actually need to make some business cards again. If anybody here has any remote skills, I think I still have one of the old business cards hanging out somewhere, but I would like to do an update on business cards uh, as well. I need to do all this administrative stuff I've had to put off while I've had to do actual bug stuff, which is fine because I like doing bug stuff, but administrative stuff needs to be done to keep the lights on. So, as unfortunate as that is. So we're at the hour mark, everybody. And I think now I will bid you all farewell until next week, where we should be able to, again, settle into things a bit more. We'll get this Kickstarter off the ground and see where that goes. So no giveaway. Oh, that's right. I was just about to do a giveaway. What's a good question? Properly spelled with proper capitalization and whatever else. What is the genus of the smallest plant in the world? There we go. This should be pretty low-hanging fruit. It has to be spelled properly. It has to be everything properly. Just the genus. I forgot what I was going to give away. Oh, I'll say the giveaway after somebody gets it. Some eggs, you are not correct. Brett B, you are correct. It is Wolfia. I was going to ask for species, but there doesn't seem to be an accurate thing. Brett, you may not appreciate. Well, you'll appreciate what you won. I don't know how much you're going to like it when you hear what it is. You have won 2 adult pairs of the shiny tortoise beetles. Ta-da! Which is good and bad because you didn't do so well with them before, which may have been again the strain of sweet potato you were using. But here's your second chance. Yes. If anybody is interested in buying some of these also, I just wanted to get them out there for the winter, but I have produced a lot of adults and I can only keep so many going into the winter. I'm going to probably end up buying sweet potatoes every couple of weeks. Sweet potato leaves every couple of weeks. So anyways, congratulations, Brett. And if anybody else is interested in them, shoot me an email. I may end up, this may be a thing that I will end up doing is during the fall or summer when I have more of them, the price will be lower, and then throughout the winter. Yes, they eat exclusively convolvulaceous plants. It doesn't matter what. They'll take ipomia, they'll take morning glories, they'll take bindweed, they'll take sweet potato leaves, etc. They will take anything. The only thing with sweet potatoes is there might be something in the sweet potato varieties that have purple leaves, not the ones that have purple flesh, but the ones that have purple leaves that may be detrimental to them. Brett had some issues, even though they grew very well. I think he had some issues. You had issues getting them to adulthood, or you had adults dying. That's the only thing that I could really think of. I don't think they'll eat dodder because it doesn't have leaves. They might chew on it though. Yeah, it's a real pain to sort of get them through the winter. At my latitude, at lower latitudes, it's probably easier. But in they're easy enough that I've gotten them through 1.3 winters. I guess it's with our winters lasting longer and longer and our falls happening later, with winters happening later and lasting longer. I guess it was more like 1.4-ish winters. So they are very hardy when you give them what they need to. And I don't know if the leaves can be stored. I'm kind of afraid to try that, not because I'm afraid of failure, but like I know it works and I'm kind of afraid to deviate from that. And sweet potato it's easy to grow indoors if you got to commit to it. You got to have lights. It's not easy, and it's not that it's difficult or that it's slow growing. It's just it needs a lot of light. So I've been using the Okinawa variety of sweet potatoes. The leaves have been fine for them. And then it just Kyle advised me that your website lists all the insectivores by scientific name, and then it just says beetles. Yeah, there's some inconsistencies there that I'll probably go back and fix. But again, I'm going to be communicating more with Mr. Chris Snyder over the next 2 years to bring Roach Crossing into its hopefully final ultimate form, which is going to be quite an undertaking. And honestly, the more that I talk about it and think about it, I'm going to I probably will not be able to do that until I have a designated full-time employee. It's going to take too much of my time and effort to get pictures or pay for pictures and get the information up there in an accurate setting. So, yes, if you Okinawa seems to be the Okinawa sweet potatoes seem to be working well. Chris, I don't know if they'll eat dried leaves. I have been able to get through some risky situations with them, feeding them sweet potatoes themselves that have been cut, and then they will feed on or at least drink from the freshly cut sweet potatoes, but it does not seem to work. That is not a viable strategy long term for them for raising them. If it was, they would be so much easier. It does not seem to work long term, but it did get me through a period of time where I was waiting for more leaves to come in or waiting for leaves to grow. So again, I've got a good repertoire of quirks to get. What I will probably keep 2 to 3 pairs going over the winter, and I just won't let them have any eggs hatch or do any of that. It would be too much for me, I think. But if anybody's further south or if anybody else wants to be crazy and buy sweet potato leaves off of eBay constantly through the winter, honestly, it's not so bad. You can get a good number, a big glob of them shipped for like $20. But the problem is if it's cold out and it's really cold, they'll arrive in very poor condition. They'll still eat them, but you kind of like it's just kind of silly is what it is. So anybody else interested, let me know. Brett, congratulations again. It's kind of funny that you didn't even know what you were going to get and it being something you wanted. So potassium deficiency in leaves, Chris suggests. Some of the leaves are naturally purple, like the decorative decorative varieties of sweet potatoes will have multicolored leaves. There's that variegated one that would actually probably work for them. I'm not 100% sure though, but there's quite a few varieties with different shapes and colors of leaves. But I think the anthocyanins are usually insect deterrents, and if they've been bred up in different varieties, that makes them distasteful or perhaps toxic to things. So thank you, Chris Snyder, on them naturally lacking potassium processing chemistry. So that they don't seem to like those. It doesn't seem to work. When I've had sweet potatoes that I've grown outside, the more wild type varieties will always have more holes in them than the purple leaf varieties will too, which indicates that the wild tortoise beetles or flea beetles are feeding on them and not on the purple ones as much. So anyways, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. I should get back to husbandry. Got a long night ahead of me. And luckily, of course, have Javier as an assistant tonight, which is amazing. He's busy cleaning containers right now. So if you eat it isolated about the purple sweet potato leaves, it's disgusting to human taste buds too. It's interesting because then the purple flesh varieties are very delicious, although they do have a slightly different taste. That I could see being off-putting to some people. So, all right, everybody, thank you for another lovely Roach Wiggle. I will see you all next week for the Kickstarter, the intimate Kickstarter session. And until then, may your cultures ever be bountiful, and I will hopefully survive this delightful weekend I'm getting ready for. So, goodbye, everyone, and take care.